Judging celebrities' perfect 10 out of 10 albums.
Hi, Pitchfork. I'm Mariah Carey, and my perfect 10 out of 10 is Purple Rain by Prince.
I mean, yeah, it's a classic. You can't go wrong with this pick. Lush synths, guitar solos, electronic instrumentation, and drumming. Prince puts his heart on the line with these sung vocals, daring, envelope-pushing tracks like the first track, Let's Go Crazy. You also have Computer Blue, Darling Nikki, Baby I'm a Star, and obviously the closing titular track, Purple Rain. And I mean, Purple Rain is one of my personal favorite songs of all time. It might be just the greatest ballad ever written. This is legitimately like a perfect song. The dramatic reverbed drum fills, exquisite guitar playing, and it's like two great songs mashed into one with amazing falsettos at the end of the track, as well as some long drawn out strings to finish the song. So yeah, as a whole album, it's a great pick from Mariah Carey.
Hi, my name is Finneas, and my perfect 10 is The Reminder by Feist.
So this is an artist I first heard years back as a feature. There's this Kings of Convenience song called Know How, and Feist is a featured vocalist. And I like the track, but I've never listened to this particular album by her before. And after giving it a listen, it is a great, very solid album. You know, there isn't anything crazy, bold, brash, or wildly experimental on this album, but the biggest strength this album has is Feist is successfully able to deliver high quality indie pop tunes consistently across the whole track list. Very pretty, delicate instrumentals and expressive vocals, earnest songwriting, and after being such a big fan of James Blake's version of the song Limit to Your Love, hearing the original track, track 8 on this album, The Limit to Your Love, was really refreshing to hear. Just such an angelic track. You can really hear how James Blake transformed and nearly repurposed this whole song for his debut self-titled album, you know, almost changing the entire meaning of the song to be so stark and dejected with its desolate production and contrast. So yeah, a beautiful record, and you can hear a lot of influence in the way that Finneas uses space and texture in his own production for Billie Eilish, and that's what's similarly on display here. I guess for me personally, there are just a few points in the record that are just a tad too bland and underwhelming for me to personally call it a 10 out of 10. That's just for me personally.
Hi, I'm Nelly Furtado, and this is my 10 out of 10 album. The album I chose today is Return of Saturn by No Doubt.
So this is a bit of a peculiar pick for me. I can only see this pick being vouched for nostalgic reasons, because to me this is just a slightly diluted, watered down version of Tragic Kingdom, recycling or rewriting the same song over and over. And Tragic Kingdom at least has some notable bangers and some catchier hits, but you know, I don't blame Nelly Furtado. I mean, speaking from personal experience, there are some Pearl Jam and Foo Fighters albums, for example, that I'll look back on in fondness when I had an alternative rock phase years ago and I was doing sort of a deep discography dive into these artists' catalog, even if nowadays they haven't aged the best with a critical eye. And so I don't agree personally that this is a 10 out of 10 album for me. And with tracks like Staring Problem, it's not even really close. But this is a very personalized segment by Pitchfork, and if music speaks to us at the right moments in our lives, it can have a lasting impression that supersedes objectivity of any kind.
Hey, this is Seth MacFarlane, and my perfect 10 album is Only the Lonely by Frank Sinatra.
So this record is great, but just being honest, I can't really differentiate between Frank Sinatra albums sonically. I mean, his output is so prolific. We get sort of the same helping of torch songs, unrequited love, heartbreak, big band orchestral productions, show tunes, and a lot of music from this era and aesthetic sort of blend together for me, but obviously very formative and influential to Seth MacFarlane's consumption of modern Western culture. So, I mean, if you like one Sinatra project, you're pretty much bound to like them all.
Hi, I'm Lin-Manuel Miranda. My perfect 10 album is Bizarre Ride to the Far Side by The Far Side.
This is genuinely an amazing, essential hip-hop album that's just filled to the brim and chock full of so much creative, wacky personality. This is just such a fun album to listen to. The beats are insanely groovy. They have this jazz rap edge to them. So if you enjoy groups like De La Soul or A Tribe Called Quest, you're pretty much guaranteed to like this album as well. The lyricism, the delivery, the flows, the storytelling just sucked me right in upon first listen. The transition skits were not too overbearing or obnoxious as sometimes the skits can be in albums that try to sequence songs in order like this. This one is undoubtedly a classic and just a W pick from Mr. Hamilton.
Hey, Pitchfork, it's Tim Heidecker here, and my perfect 10 is Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band by the Beatles.
So I talked about this album in greater detail in a previous video, and link in the info box that should appear now in the top right corner. Hopefully I remember to add that in. But this is far from my favorite Beatles album. I mean, I think there's a few skips on here. Good Morning certainly being one of them. And obviously there are some undeniable classics. The titular track, obviously, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, A Day in the Life. But overall, as a full project, the songs are just not as strong in my opinion, and the lofty ambition that this album sets out to explore and develop just not quite met. To me, even a project like Magical Mystery Tour, for example, actually excels more, in my opinion, in achieving that imaginative world or landscape in that department for me personally. That's not to say this isn't a great album by any means or metric, just not my personal favorite Beatles pick, and just not a perfect record in my eyes.
What's up, Pitchfork? This your favorite hood hottest princess, Sexyy Red. And my perfect 10 album would be Finally Rich by Chief Keef.
I understand it's influential, it's ahead of its time, it's even era defining in a way. I'll admit there are some bangers on it, and I know with projects like this, you're not supposed to attack this thing at a super deep analytical angle. This music is meant to just be about mood and atmosphere and vibes, so I kind of get it. But also I don't, because after the hook for each song is repeated about twice, I'm just kind of bored and exhausted. I mean, once a hook or phrase is established in one of these songs, it just gets a little old after being chanted ad nauseum. And I mean, just listen to this song, Laugh into the Bank, if you want a taste of what this is. We're obviously not being very serious, but that's sort of the charm of this album to many people. But outside of a couple singles, just not so much for me.
Hello, Pitchfork. This is Cynthia Erivo, and my perfect 10 album is by Yebba.
So Yebba is a name that I'm surprised isn't really talked about more, just because of her numerous contributions to vocal performance features on some extremely popular and successful projects. And yeah, this is just a very polished, cleanly produced pop and R&B album. Honestly, pretty star-studded production credits and feature lists from the likes of Mark Ronson, DJ Dahi, Kaytranada, Hudson Mohawk, A$AP Rocky, Smino. This album seems to check all the boxes when it comes to production, atmosphere, vocals, instrumentation, structure. To me, it's just missing that it factor that separates the good to great albums from the perfect albums. It's unfortunate that I can't quite articulate that this album is just playing just a little bit too safe, and it's just not that daring. I mean, not that albums have to be groundbreaking or experimental or loud or boisterous in its sound and presentation to be great, but it just seems to be lacking this identity that sets Yebba apart from other vocalists, even if she does have the technical proficiency to do so. But there are some great tracks here, notably for me, Louis Bag with Smino, Love Came Down with Kaytranada, which is probably the liveliest performance on this whole record.
Hey Pitchfork, this your boy Denzel Curry, and this is my perfect 10 album, Dark Twisted Fantasy by Kanye West.
You know, not that Ye needs any more glazing, especially now. I mean, sure, it's great, it's polished, it's confident, maximalist, ambitious, you know, whatever you want to call it, but it's very, very far from perfect. I wouldn't go so far as to call it a 6, but it is a little bit too top heavy in my opinion. And I love Denzel Curry, but honestly, I wouldn't even put it in his top 3.
What's up, Pitchfork? This is my perfect 10. Kid A by Radiohead.
It is one of those albums that just sits right at the crux of music nerd pretentiousness, mainstream critical acclaim, and meme, but just outside the reach from the hyper accessible. But I mean, you can't deny this is an amazing album. I mean, every word of praise that you hear about this album for sounding so otherworldly, alien, isolating, cold, dystopian, yet emotional and entrancing is true. I mean, it's timeless, it's still fresh, relevant even to this day. The thing that Matt Smith says that's wrong here, though, is claiming that Pablo Honey is some people's favorite Radiohead album. I would give him the benefit of the doubt that maybe he's joking or on some third level of irony that I'm just not picking up on, but there's just no way that's true. Just because he also acknowledges that OK Computer and In Rainbows are some people's favorite, so I don't really know what to think anymore. But as an actor, he goes into explaining how this album puts him into a flow state for locking into his role and has this purpose of functionality that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, obviously a very good pick.
Hey Pitchfork, I'm Orville Peck, and my perfect 10 album is The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars by David Bowie.
I mean, it's great. Incredibly iconic rock album, incredibly iconic rock tunes from front to back. It's a pristine, nearly flawless rock album and just greatly imaginative lyricism as well. But this is definitely the critic's choice Bowie record. I mean, Hunky Dory, Heroes, Low, Station to Station, which is probably my personal favorite. or even Black Star, which I think is genuinely up there in his discography with the best at this point. But I mean, Ziggy Stardust, it's definitely the sensible, respectable pick.
Hi Pitchfork, I'm Slick Rick, and my Perfect 10 album is presenting Dionne Warwick.
Obviously a classic, beautiful R&B album. Dionne Warwick has probably got to be one of the most sampled artists in history. I mean, aside from the Amen break, of course, I feel like Dionne Warwick is such a popular sample choice, especially in hip-hop, because for silky, smooth vocals, enjoyable melodic and harmonic choices, and for the most part, very sparse, minimal soundscapes that allow the producer to really play with the sample and build a world around Warwick's voice. So there's no need to explain what makes these songs great. Just very simple, very effective, and very great pick.
Hi, this is Michelle from Japanese Breakfast, and my Perfect 10 album is Billy Joel's The Stranger.
So this is actually a really great pick as well. A wonderful crop of classic, well thought out, structured tracks, classic piano rock pop fusion songs. And I feel like a lot of people would dismiss this one as kind of the old head sleeper pick. The songwriting is great, there's no doubt about that. It's kind of his agreed upon best album, and it's definitely his strongest run of songs for sure. The hits you have Moving Out, Anthony's song, Just the Way You Are, Scenes from an Italian Restaurant in Vienna, She's Always a Woman. Even some of the deeper cuts are pretty good too, like Get It Right the First Time and Everybody Has a Dream. And I mean, there's only 9 tracks on this thing, so yeah, maybe if I'm being a bit nitpicky, my least favorite track is probably Only the Good Die Young. Just a little bit too jazz hands coded for me. And I mean, she says herself in the interview that there's 9 tracks and 7 out of the 9 are crazy bangers, so I guess the other 2 are just sort of satisfactory songs. But definitely a great record, and obviously there's a personal connection to Michelle Zauner. I mean, she tells a story about how she met her husband at a karaoke bar while she was singing Scenes from an Italian Restaurant. So I mean, I guess that's pretty much as good as an argument as you're gonna get.
What's up Pitchfork? I'm beabadoobee, and my Perfect 10 album is Cardinal by Pinegrove.
Very catchy, emotionally honest. It's not hard to see why this resonates with a lot of people. You know, very driving, almost sometimes emo, impassioned vocals, a looser lo-fi approach to these songs. It really does feel like you're sitting in at the local band's demo session inside their garage they're practicing at. A very raw and matter-of-fact kind of delivery to the playing and performances here. So I guess TikTok fame recognizes TikTok fame.
Hi, I'm Laufey, and my Perfect 10 album is Chet Baker Sings It Could Happen to You.
If you're looking for incredible vocal jazz, soft, delicate, romantic fireside on a cold winter's day accompanying music, this very album and Chet Baker's work are pretty much the gold standard when it comes to this stuff. The only comment from Laufey I don't really like is how she says at the beginning that she treasures these albums especially since they're a bit lesser known, which ironically enough is the most performative, pretentious argument she could have made to defend this pick. But she has some other great points talking about the actual music on this album. And you can hear the template to which Laufey ripped off her whole style from. Not really sure who said that.
Hi Pitchfork, I'm Fred Armisen, and my Perfect 10 out of 10 album is Strawberries by The Damned.
This is such a Fred Armisen coded album, it's insane. I mean, this is such a bizarre alternative 80s rock record that dabbles in some goth rock, teetering on the edge of punk rock, but retains the quirkiness of like a B-52s or a Devo album or something like that. It gives me a slight new wave feel just because of how melodic it is at times, but it doesn't lose that dark edge. This is just a very hard to pin down sounds, but I did thoroughly enjoy this album despite never hearing of this group or this album before. This is the kind of nerdy hipster rock album that the record store owner would play on the overhead and you would have to Shazam it because you're too scared to ask the owner what album is playing in the best way possible. But yeah, personally, just shout out to Fred Armisen for always championing niche music subcultures and shining light onto music in his comedy and his own realm of work. So yes, very strange pick, but very fitting for Fred Armisen, but a great album and a pleasant surprise to listen to.
Hello Pitchfork, this is Geordie Greep, and my Perfect 10 album would be My Song by Keith Jarrett.
This is a great jazz album, and if you never listened to either Greep's solo stuff on The New Sound or any of his previous work with Black Midi, this pick makes perfect sense. You know, Greep mentions how some of these songs are bordering this fine line of being cheesy, and in a way I do agree. I mean, there are certain times on this record where the mainline melody is just on the verge of being on a cruise ship elevator or a VIP lounge. Like, it's just right there, almost dipping its toes into the vicinity of smooth jazz. And I would just listen to the track Country if you want to to get a sense of this description. But the beauty of this album is this wonderful balance of real incredible chops, even some of the more wild and expressive playing, like on the jittery track Mandala, for example. And this is a valid pick for Greep because if you listen to an album like Hellfire or certain tracks off the new sound, you see a personification of the sentiment on full display. You know, not afraid to world build and deepen the lore of the bigger picture on the album, even if that means including a cheesy quote-unquote show tune skit or cliche instrumental section just to further the story. So committing to the bit, the over-the-top, sometimes theatrical experience. It's very bold, it's unafraid, it's authentic. It's a great pick overall.
Hey, this is Woods, and my Perfect 10 album is Goody Mob Soul Food. It was a tough choice between that and Operation Doomsday, but I'm going with Soul Food.
This is a fantastic, essential Southern hip-hop album. Great, fat, snappy beats from Organized Noise, iconic samples, amazing, colorful chord progressions and chord choices, very soulful, beautiful background vocals, and sticky hooks. You have memorable storytelling, hard-hitting truth bombs and commentary, great Outcasts features individually. If you never listened to this album, go and just listen to track 5, Cell Therapy, off of this album, and then go and listen to 5% Tints by Travis Scott off of Astroworld. Your mind is just guaranteed to be blown. But yeah, just extremely based pick from Woods.
Yo, what's up? This is Paz from Daylo. My perfect 10 would be Raising Hell by Run DMC.
It's great, very classic pick, and you know, it can be very easy to dismiss old school golden age rap for being rudimentary or too simple. But even if you have a distaste for old school rap, I mean, records like this one, it's just so undeniably catchy. The beats still knock, the flows and chants are still very memorable. Legendary electric guitar sampling, Rick Rubin casting his magic all over this album, oozing with personality and mic chemistry between the MCs. Another super fun hip-hop album, sometimes rock fusion album. It's classic, sort of a cultural zeitgeist moment, but yeah, it's a great, very understandable pick.
Hey, it's Magdalena Bay, and we're here with our 2 Perfect 10 albums because we're 2 people. So first off, we have Fiona Apple. The idler wheel is wiser than the driver of the screw, and whipping cords will serve you more than ropes will ever do.
So first with the idler wheel, like Magdalena Bay describes, this is a very emotionally distraught, vulnerable singer-songwriter record. It can be hard to pick up on that upon the first listen, and just because the sonic landscape is sometimes very skeletal, minimal, the instruments, especially the percussion, sounds like it's utilizing instruments crafted from sticks and dust and raw animal hide and raw materials. A very natural, almost primitive sounding album. What that does is it focuses more attention back onto Fiona Apple's stories and very expressive vocal delivery. Yeah, these songs are frustrated, sometimes defeated, sometimes angry, but there is an underlying tone of strength that seems to prevail even through the hardships that she mentions she faces. So yeah, this is a great pick.
And next up, Selling England by the Pound by Genesis.
And the second record being Genesis, Selling England by the Pound. Just what an amazing prog rock album. Genesis manages to balance incredible virtuosic rock passages and solos with more spacey, time warping, medieval sounding passages. It's a very ambitious, almost reads like a storybook at times kind of album. Every time I listen to this album, it's so hard for me to believe that Phil Collins went on to pursue a solo career in the safer pop realm, but it was the 80s after all, in his defense.
Hey, my name is Underscores. My perfect 10 is 9 by Cashmere Cat.
This is a peculiar album just because there are some genuinely great forward-thinking, futuristic electronic experiments going on with this material. It gives me a Tonight sort of bubblegum bass, future bass, PC music cross-section sort of feel, but at the same time it is grounded in pop songs that, for the lack of a better term, sound like the top radio hits that the bus driver would bump on the way back home from middle school. I mean, there's just a star-studded lineup on the personnel end, for better for worse. Features from Kehlani, Casey Hill, Sophie, The Weeknd, Ariana Grande, Ty Dolla $ign, Selena Gomez, Tory Lanez, Camila Cabello, Jane Aiko. So while I do love the genuine effort to make some really creative, sometimes even unhinged vocal manipulation and electronic synthetic soundscapes, at the end of the day, some of the tunes at the core are just a bit weak. They're just a little bit weak in their songwriting and sort of the meat and potatoes of the basics of song structure. And a lot of you may just disagree and see that as a positive attribute to the album that gives it a looser, less restrained flow, which I completely understand if you enjoy. But personally, that's just what sets the album back from perfection for me. So those are some celebrities, 10 out of 10 perfect albums. Let me know, what is your personal perfect 10 out of 10 album? And if you like this video, consider subscribing so I can make more videos just like this one. Yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.